Are you ready to increase your retention and revenue and convert website traffic to clients? Then you're ready for Maya. Maya is a marketing and client recruitment software. Maya creates better business relationships by pairing the right clients with the right beauty professionals. How do we do it? A matchmaker. Your brand will have its own unique matchmaking survey. By pairing people based on their skill set, budget, personality, and lifestyle preferences, Maya creates lasting relationships that keep both sides coming back for more. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Pair the right clients with the right beauty pros the first time. Visit joinmaya.com to get started.
Thank you for joining me. This is Kati Whitledge with the Beyond the Technique podcast. Today we're talking about compensation, marketing, and firing bad clients. We are going to dive right in because we have a lot to cover today. So, compensation. At the beginning of 2024, we launched a new episode on compensation, like a unique structure. I will put the link in our show notes to that entire podcast so you can hear more of the background, but I'll try to summarize. We launched a compensation structure where the stylists have an opportunity to earn an additional service commission every payroll period based on better retail performance. So most of us have level systems, and at each level, you expect your stylist to sell a specific percentage of their total sales being retail. And their ability to move up the level system is heavily dependent on, I'm sure, retail is part of that. We wanted a way to incentivize our stylists to really hone in on better retail sales. And in doing this, we increased retail by 1 full% from the year prior. And let me just share what we did. If at a level 2, we expect you to do, let's say, 16% of your total sales being retail, and you hit that in a payroll period, we would move your service commission. And at a level 2, let's say it's 40%, we would move you from 40% to 42%. So every payroll period, there was this incentive to make more money on the services you provide in commission if you did better with retail. And over the course of the year, we've had 11 payroll periods where our stylists hit that. They earned that additional commission because their retail was so great. But here's what we came up against. And let me also share this. Look at your master, like higher level stylists. You either have stylists that are continuously motivated and love to sell, and you may find that your higher up, some of them stall out and they don't sell as much. I find it interesting because they both types have pretty built clientele. And so they're seeing the same people all the time. Well, why would one continuously sell, and be a top retailer versus the other? And sometimes it comes down to just personality. But by having this opportunity in place for them, it gives everybody equal playing ground to make more in their overall commission for services if they do better for retail sales. And by the way, they still make their typical 10% of wholesale on all retail sales. So they're still making their baseline on retail sales, but they get this bonus opportunity essentially every payroll period in addition to that. And we are really trying to just fire up the engine and get everybody super pumped to sell retail because we know how retail is so important in predicting future visits, retention. We also need that income as a salon to help cover all these amenities that we're offering, including our support staff. So it's so important to do well with retail. We could all agree on that. But one issue that we found is that it's hard for every stylist to wrap their head around percentages. So our salon is in Madison, Wisconsin, and we start out at like these expectations. It's like 15% of your total sales at a level 1, we expect to be retail sales of your total sales, right? So 15%, then it goes 16, 17, 18, 19. Well, how hard is it for your stylist to wrap their head around percentages? Like, unless we're talking 10%, 20%, 50%, things like that, that's easy. But the math doesn't become easy when you're talking 15, 16, 17, 18, 19%. So not only that, we found that the service totals are going to shift. You have a payroll period where you're doing extensions and one payroll period where you're doing more haircuts or more colors. And then, oh, we do a lot of bridal. So there's that. So because you have varying payroll weeks with your how much services you're providing and what that total looks like, the expectation of what you need to hit for retail in order to get your bonus, that also moves. And because it's a moving target, that's the big issue. Nobody knows what they actually need to do to hit their bonus. And if your team is like our team, they like to know, like they're motivated to hit their goals if they know very clearly what the goal is. So then we find that they're in their booking app every single day. Am I close? How am I doing? But that's reflective. If I that's looking backwards. If I go into the app and see what did I do in sales today, I'm looking back at something in the past that I have no control over anymore. Whatever happened is what happened, and now I see where I'm at. And yeah, I could try to make up for it tomorrow, but tomorrow is also going to have those variables. So here's what we're doing different for 2025. We are telling the team during your annual review, which is in January, we want to know what's your goal for your annual income? Like what do you want to take home in your annual income? And based on their personalized answer to that, we are going to create a retail dollar amount goal for them. And if they hit that goal every payroll period, we will bump up their commission by 2%. So if they're at 40% in a payroll period, they could make 42% instead on their services if they hit this dollar amount retail goal. I mean, how much better is this? Clear expectation. So let me give you an example of what that looks like. Let's say your stylist sits down and they say, I want to make $100,000 this year. You would be like, amazing. So you would know as a company, that means that they need to do $250,000 in services to hit that. And it really turns out to be 112,000 something, but I'm trying to make this easy. They say they want to make 100,000. You know that means they need to do 250,000 in services in order to get that average commission of 45%. And I just averaged it out across the board. I average it like 45%. So if I know that they need to do 250,000 in services, and at that level, I expect that they're going to hit 20% of their total sales being that 250,000 in retail, that is 50,000 in retail for the year. So if we say to them, great, you want to make 100,000 this year, your retail goal is 50,000 for the year. And when we break that down into your payroll period, that means every payroll period, we need you to sell $2,000 in retail, and you will go from that 44% to 46%. I mean, it may not be that. I'm just bringing this up, right? You go from 42 to 44 or 43 to 45, whatever that looks like for you. We bump them up 2%. That's their opportunity every single payroll period. Now, I've simplified the math because really 50,000 over the course of the year and you have 26 payroll periods of the year puts you at 1,923. But you are in control of saying, okay, if you want to hit your retail bonus, which bumps up your service commission, then you need to do $2,000 in retail sales every single payroll period. I hope that this is simple. I'm going to say it one more time. They say, I want to make 100,000 a year. Essentially, you say, great. Then your goal is for retail to get the bonus every payroll period to bump up your commission is going to be $2,000 every payroll period. And then they focus on that. Have I sold $2,000 in retail in this payroll period? It gives them a very, very clear benchmark. And here's the power of it. Everybody's choosing their own thing. If I have a stylist that comes in and says, I want to make 50,000 this year, amazing. Then what do they need to do in services to actually have 45% of that equal to 50,000, right? And then you create that goal for them. Okay, so your retail goal every 2 weeks is going to be this amount. And if you hit that, we bump you from 40 to 42% commission. That's what's appropriate for your level and where you're at and your personalized goal. So it's going to be so awesome. I can't wait. I hope that you can wrap your head around that. If not, you can always reach out to us for one on one coaching and we can go through this line by line with you. But that is so, so exciting. So that's our compensation topic. I hope that ignites a little creative juice for you in helping your team produce their optimum results. And let's move into marketing. I want to share the best promotions to help you fill day of or week of gaps. So, one of our best practices at our salon is looking every single Monday morning at how many gaps do we have at each location. If one location has 20 gaps and the other has 8 gaps, our number one mission is to fill the gaps. I mean, at the end of the day, we need to keep the main thing the main thing. We need butts in the seats. We want to fill the gaps. Now, what do we constitute as a gap? For our salon, anything that's a 45-minute space or longer is a gap. How many 45-minute gaps do we have? That's how many gaps that we focus on filling up. Okay. And we have our guest services team work on it. How are we going to fill the gaps this week? So they have their own mission at hand when they're on the phone or handling emails or text communications. I mean, we generate over 300 leads a month through Maya. So that alone helps us tremendously. But we've implemented these immediate promotions that guarantees that we fill the gaps. And I'm going to share those with you today. The first one is getting gorgeous hair on a budget. So we'll send out an email that will literally say the subject line will be like on a budget question mark or gorgeous hair on a budget. There's something triggering about the word budget that has helped us increase massively our open rates on those emails. And when they open up that email, you could, of course, do this as texting too. You just have to kind of watch your characters. You get about 190 character limit on a text message campaign. So here's the overall message. Basically, here's the promo. It is get an advanced color for $149 when you book with any of our protege stylists now through the end of such and such time frame. So for you, you can make it like this week only. It depends on your roster. When I'm coaching salon owners, I say, are you heavier on new talent right now? Are you heavier on mid-level? Are you heavier on higher level experienced stylists? That will kind of dictate maybe time frames of your promotions, the type of promotions, the dollar amount on the promotions. For most salon owners, if you're like, okay, my seasoned people are pretty booked, I need to get my newer or mid-level people like fully booked. You can change this from protege stylist to when you book with one of our select stylists. The word select stylist gives you the ability to really kind of pick and choose. Like basically, the select stylists are whoever have openings, right? So for this week only, today only, or however you want to create that time frame to create that FOMO and that sense of urgency, you say, hey, book an advanced color for 149. Now we still separate in that 149, we still separate out the cost for product. So they when they check out, they're still seeing their cost for labor, that work of the service, and then they see their product charge. So we still protect the company from the cost of product and make sure we have that money to go back into getting more product and buy the color again. Okay. But it is a huge opportunity to get those immediate gaps. And by the way, your guest services team on the phone can utilize this to their advantage. When somebody new calls in and they're like, oh, I don't know if I can make that. Well, hey, if you book this week, you could lock in our special offer. Here's what we have. You can do. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, get me in. I want that. So use it to your advantage. So that's promo number one. And the second, and this really is helpful for you if you offer premium style haircuts. So at our salon, we specialize and have specialized in naturally textured hair, high textured hair since 2011, like before it became very important for all of us to pay attention to. Because I mean, the dynamics of our culture is changing and family dynamic. Like people have, the majority of people we work with always have wavy hair. And then it goes from there, wavy, curly, super curly, very, very high texture. So it's something that we specialize in. Maybe at your salon, you may not at this point specialize in very curly hair, but maybe you offer like a hydration haircut that's a premium price point. So you could offer like, get for us, we say this, get a curly haircut for the price of 49 when you book with such and such in this particular month. Okay. So when we newly certify and go through the training with our new hires on working with curly hair, and we need to like get them exposure, get their hands in it, get them as many at bats as possible, we utilize the price point of 49. So consider that a price point for a level one, somebody just starting out working with a specialty service. So for you, let's just say that you offer a hydration haircut that's normally $110. Maybe you say for today only or this week only, you could get a hydration haircut for $99 or $89. So those are little tools in your tool belt that it's a very, very valuable service. When we put this offer out, our curly girls are like on it because they know that the time and kind of social proof. We've been there and done that. They can count on anybody in our team to be able to pull off the technical aspects and competencies necessary for these very skilled services. So they jump on it and we fill these gaps every single week and we follow up. How many gaps have we filled? Where are we at? How many have left? And so I want to put those two promos out there in hopes of you utilizing these resources and promos for your own company. I hope you love it. So we've gone over compensation changes, new creative ways to think about retail and marketing and best promos for booking day of or week of. And now we're going to dive into firing bad clients. So um, this is coming off of an experience we faced where you have the need for something formal without having overly rigid policies in place. You know, we just talked a little bit ago with one of our guests about how important as owners it is to be flexible. So we don't need more red tape. We need more personalized conversations with our team. But working with our leadership team, we knew that it was going to be necessary to come up with a checklist of how do we know logically and analytically, AKA unemotionally, that it's time to fire a bad client. So we kind of all know in our gut when somebody's sitting in our chair, like we're like, I shouldn't have moved forward with them. I should have trusted. I had a bad feeling and I shouldn't have done it. And we did. And then we regretted it. You know, it's like, but we can't always fire clients just because, we don't like them. Oftentimes, it could be that that client is just not a good fit for us and vice versa, but they could be a brilliant fit with another stylist at our salon. This is why we have Maya. We want to really make sure that the right client is with the right provider so that we don't have to go through some of these heartaches and headaches. Now, there are very clear signs, though, when a client needs to be fired just overall. Like as a whole entire company, no matter which location they try to come to, which stylist, like this person cannot continue with us. What are those things? I'm going to give you 5 things. We could probably come up with a lot more, but these are the 5 big ones. Number one is they are disrespectful and straight up have abusive behavior. So they would be consistently rude, disrespectful, verbally abusive toward your staff. They create when they're in this kind of toxic environment. Protecting your team's well being is essential. So getting rid of somebody who's straight up just rude and disrespectful, they say mean things. And this can equally be important for your guest services team. I don't care if Mary Sue is super nice to the stylist she sees. If she's treating my guest services team consistently like garbage, she can't continue with us. So strike one there. A second reason to fire a client is unreasonable expectations. So if they have completely unrealistic expectations about how much time you should take or how many processes this should take, if they try to seem like they know better or more than you and are trying to dictate the situation for you, and you've seen this play out with other stylists, like they need to have the control. They have a lack of faith, trust, and just the willingness to listen to your professional advice and your approach. They can't work with you. Like there are just certain people out there who are not a good fit in that regard, and they cause you to have burnout or just complete fatigue. Like they're the ones who are never really happy. You've never done a great job for them. There's always something that they don't like about what you're doing for them, regardless of who they've seen. Look, you've exhausted it. Move on. They're not a good fit. Of course, another reason would be like somebody who is consistently either late, can't, or have cancels or no shows. Like we charge, and it probably is one of the biggest time sucks of our administrators' lives in having to deal with chargebacks, where we go and we say, okay, to the guest, unfortunately, because you gave us less than 24-hour notice, we are charging you 50% of your total service appointment for today. And if they no show, it's a 100% charge. We do that. We are very, very consistent. And then what happens? The guest contacts their credit card company, says, I didn't receive the services. This isn't fair. And then we get this notification that we've been charged back for the thing we've charged for them. And then we have to go and fill out all this stuff and submit it to try to keep the money. I mean, this is like shame on them. And to be a small business owner and have to go through that already is ridiculous, and really not just a time and energy suck, but it steals money from the business. Well, anyway, if somebody's consistently, even if they don't do the chargeback, let's say they're like, oh, charge me. But if they are consistently late, consistently canceling and moving things around constant, and you'll have those people, right, where they know that they have a 24-hour notice and they'll get a hold of you like 28 hours before 26, you're right. Like they know the window, but you're like, gosh, they always do this to me. And I'm still like kind of stuck, or I'm still out. That is one of the checklist items to say, okay, I think it's time that we part ways with this person. Okay, another reason is just lack of boundaries. So if you have that guest who just expects that you will drop on a dime and connect with them when you're not open, when it's a holiday, when it's your time off, you're on vacation, um, that could be like an ongoing. First off, that would be a whole different podcast where I'd talk to you about setting really healthy boundaries, because I think we've gotten really, really good at that with our team members because we respect and love them so much. We need to get really, really good at that with our clientele. And if you have certain clients that are taking advantage of that, that is another like, oh, check that could be a reason to let them go. And lastly, just completely unfit for your services. Sometimes a client may not align with what you provide or how you provide it. I'll give you an example. Like our salon space is built out where it's very, very open, very, very opened up, and we don't have treatment rooms. We don't have private rooms. So there was one particular guest that wore a head wrap, and we were not able to accommodate their request to have something separate and private away from other people for fear of potentially having somebody see them and their hair, their natural hair in their natural state. And of course, we love everybody. We want to be able to figure that out. And we offered times where it was like, oh, well, you'll be like the last two people here on this particular day and time. That didn't work out. They were very frustrated. Of course, our hands felt like we were tied. So there are just those scenarios that are kind of unique where sometimes it just is a logistics thing where you don't provide the things that they're looking for. You'll have those random clients like, can I bring in my own brushes or my own curling iron or my own products? Can I bring in my own color? No, you cannot actually. I remember when we were doing bridal a long time ago, we really tightened up our expectations and our communications and boundaries with this, where the bridal party didn't want to buy the makeup part of what we were offering, but yet wanted to use our space to do makeup. Well, now we don't even provide makeup in our space. We only go on site for bridal services so that our space can be used for everyday clients and really optimize our price per square foot in those opportunities, right? If we're open, we want to really be open, and how can we double up? So we're only on site for bridal now. But back when we did have it in house and we would see people trying to do their own makeup, it was like, oh, well, we could have done your makeup. Like, this is crazy. So, long story short, there are going to be just those unique situations where it's just not a compatible thing based on, like, we don't do that, or we don't allow that, or that's just not something we have the ability to accommodate. So let's recap: disrespectful or abusive behavior, unreasonable expectations, chronic cancellations, no shows, being late, a lack of respect for your boundaries, and just unfit for your services. There's just logistics don't make sense. Now, when we talk in our Asana group behind the scenes, we don't just say, oh, it was this one infraction, a reason to let them go. You really want to take a look. Can we check 3 out of the 5? 3 out of the 5 things are checked here. We're like in agreement. We as a company are going to let this person go. If it's maybe 1 out of the 5, let's say it's the unreasonable expectations, but I know that somebody else might be a better fit for this guest, let's try to pivot first before we fire them all together. Let's try to see if they could be a really great fit for this particular stylist. Of course, there are just like at the end of the day, no, if they're abusive verbally or like disrespectful, that is not ever okay. And so that we don't need to say, oh, they're bad with 3 out of the 5, we're getting rid of them. It's like, boom, they have this issue, they're done. I hope that's helpful. Let's do a whole podcast conversation recap. We talked compensation in a new, unique way to structure retail performance that's tied to service commission increases. We talked about your best marketing promos to fill day of and weekly gaps. And we talked about having this checklist that you can really analyze if there is a reason to fire a client. I hope all of these tips are really helpful for you. Super, super valuable. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please leave me a review. We need more people like you to become loyal listeners of Beyond the Technique so we can continue our mission. We are here to change the way that you are supported in your business. Till next time, everybody, have an awesome day and stay strong.